I'm recording.
Me too. Awesome. So today we're going to talk about adult bullying, which goes on more often than it should. And it affects people on very, very deep levels. And it doesn't just happen at schools while with children, it happens with adults. Mature adults, even people in their 50s and 60s, are being bullied or are bullies.
Yeah. And with social media, it makes it so easy to sit behind a computer screen or sit behind a phone and attack others for simply expressing opinions. And we expect kids to be more responsible with social media, but they learn from us, they learn from adults. So it's our responsibility as adults to treat one another with respect, no matter what anyone's opinions are. Opinions are just opinions, they come from the head. There's the care and concern for one another comes from the heart. So somehow we as adults need to remember that no matter what opinion we see expressed on the internet, we are responsible for taking a moment, breathing, and remembering compassion and thinking, what does this person's heart need? Like, how can I care? How can I be of service to this person's heart? Like, is it really that important that our opinion is deemed correct, that we're right and the other person's wrong? Is that what's most important? Or is caring about another human being and what's in their heart important?
Well, it seems like more often than not, it's important for people to win.
Mm-hmm.
I have to be right. I need to win, which is level two. And if I don't, I damn well make sure I will. So if it means that I have to ridicule this person online, I will do it. Because why? Because I'm the best and I need to be right.
Mm-hmm.
Because that, to me, that's a very closed, narrow minded approach.
Yeah.
Because the person that is open will be open to listen to another person's opinion, not take it as the truth, not listen to it as it's the gospel, but listen to the other human being, to what they're saying, and maybe you might learn something. It doesn't have to be you might learn of what they're talking about and agree with them, but you might learn something about that individual.
And learn what's important to them. And I guarantee if we open our minds to hear what's important to other people, I guarantee we will find so much in common with one another. So let's take this issue of masks, for example. There's a division between people who believe masks are helping and people who believe that they're causing harm. And I'm seeing this clash, and I'm seeing the way that people, like, I've seen memes of people who are very pro-mask, and just, I don't have an opinion one way or the other. I just kind of observe humanity in general. If I have a really strong opinion of something, I will tune in and listen. When it comes to something like the masks, I don't have enough information. I don't think any of us have enough information in general during a global pandemic to be experts on any subject. So
Yeah.
so nobody's an expert. So when I see people who are posting things about people who are not down with the masks and calling them morons and just calling them names.
That's high school. That right there is bullying. That's the way that a teenager would talk to another teenager to sound cool and tough and strong and I know it all and I got it. I'm big and you're little.
That's it. And it causes so much harm, because what if there is truth in what the other person is saying? And not only that, going back to what I was saying before is that I think what we would find is that we all have the same things in common. So whether you are pro-mask or not into the masks, probably at the thoughts are coming from a place in the heart where you're worried about safety.
Yeah.
So if we're all worried about safety, maybe let's talk about that and hear each other out. So let's say, for example, some of the arguments for not wearing a mask is breathing in CO2 and compromising the immune system. There could be some very knowledgeable people on that matter, and just in general, I think if we get to the root of what's driving our opinions and what's driving our beliefs, I think they're all the same. Safety, fear of harm. So
Conforming.
yeah, and exactly. So I think if we could get out of the head space, like the energy level 2 that you were talking about of I'm right, from that place, in order to be right, the other side has to be wrong. And one of my favorite lyrics in a song is from the Buffalo Springfield song. I forget the name of it right now, but it goes, nobody's right if everybody's wrong. So it seems like this world where everybody's wrong because they're all pointing fingers and saying, I'm right, you're wrong.
Yeah, but it's also possible for something to be right and wrong at the same time. I think those two can still coexist in a way.
Absolutely. I think it's, and right now, like, how would we even know? Like, we're people, we haven't been studying pandemics. We haven't been studying this stuff. So
until now, which is not
right.
really studying, right? Because it just like got dumped. It happened. And then now let's start studying, but that's not enough time to study. If we've been studying the human brain for how many decades now and still know nothing about it, like maybe just like 1%.
No, we are just now getting to the point where science is admitting that thoughts create matter. So
let's stop the thought process.
yeah. Like we're just now getting to the point where science is admitting that plants have their own sentience and their own learning processes. So yeah, the reason that this topic's so hot in our hearts is earlier I mentioned to Yana, for anyone listening, I mentioned to Yana about how a friend of mine was being bullied for expressing her truth on social media, and I saw how much pain it caused her. It didn't stop her. She continued expressing, thank goodness.
Yeah.
But I rely on her. I'm not willing to do my own digging because it might put me in a bad place. I've learned from the past that going into the rabbit hole, sometimes I don't come out.
Yeah.
So I have trusted sources. So my friend, she's fiery, she's passionate, and she's been bullied her whole life. She can handle it even on the days where she does break down. But she gets right back up and is right back out there expressing the truth. And so I am so grateful because she's my main source for, I don't necessarily want to call it conspiracies because who's to say it's conspiracies? She's my main source for non-mainstream information and what feels like truth to me. So when I see her social media, my intuition is like, this adds up.
Yeah.
But what if the bullying stopped her? Then how would I, and anyone who trusts her as a conveyor of information, what would we do? And what would anyone, if again, the Arthur Schopenhauer quote that all truth goes through 3 stages. First is ridiculed, then it's violently opposed, then it's accepted as self-evident. What if all that violent opposition stopped the truth and it never had the chance to become self-evident? You know, would we still believe that the sun revolves around the earth? You know, would we still? There's so much in truth now. There's things that we accept as truth now that, like, that people were persecuted for in the past.
Yeah.
So I don't think we want to be a culture that continues to do that. And if we had the emotional maturity, which is where Yana and I come in as coaches, we have the tools to help people to stop. Just stop and take a breath.
Yeah.
And center, and then ask ourselves, instead of being triggered, to immediately react. Because usually reactions come from level 1 or level 2.
From a hurt place. It all comes from a hurt place, from a place of pain that each and every one of us carries. All of us have pain that we're carrying. Each and every single human being has pain that they're carrying. But it comes down to three simple choices. React in a harsh way, respond in a nice way, or just walk away and let it be, because you don't have to say anything. And I remember growing up that there was a quote that my parents used to say to me, my mom used to say to me, because I was always fiery, always, you know, had to be the first one. I had to win, right? I was a rebel. You told me not to do that. I'm going to go and do that. And I'm going to prove you wrong that I can do it, right? There's different sides to being a rebel. And she always said that it takes a bigger man not to say anything.
Mm-hmm. And it honestly conserves energy.
Yes.
My aunt lives in New Mexico, and she was telling me about there's issues going on there, like where she lives, men are sitting on women who are wearing masks, just like all this chaos she was telling me about. And I was like, that's odd, because it takes energy to sit. So like, that takes up so much more energy.
And the muscle and everything, yeah.
Mind your own business and keep moving forward. Like, to be triggered, like that angry, like, I'm gonna spit on someone, like, that takes up energy. And I can't imagine any end result or goal that's achieved by behaving like that.
Well, to them, it's just, I share my opinion, because that's what I've learned, right? You shared your opinion. Now, because you shared your opinion, you allow me to share my opinion. And let me tell you in all the ways of how you are wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But usually it becomes very personal very quickly.
And that's exactly, like, big picture, that's been the game plan all along. If we are a people divided just because of opinion, like, if we've been able to be divided over math and be that mean to each other because of math, then the powers that be have won.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I think, like you mentioned earlier, that it's not the mask. What people are concerned about, it's the safety itself, it's health, right? So a mask is just a symbol of separation.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like, that's how I'm hearing it, and I'm understanding it, that the mask is just a symbol of separation. If you're wearing a mask, you fall under this cult. If you're not, you're under this one. You're either in or you're out, which is clear division and separation. And those that are in the middle, they're standing in the middle, and literally being spat on by those people from both directions, because you're not choosing.
Personally, I choose what makes people around me feel most comfortable, because that's my personal role. So if I'm with my mom, I'm gonna take precautions because though she and I don't hold the same beliefs, I don't want to be starting fights with my mom. You know, like I've been through enough with my family. So even though I am the rebel of the family and have my own truths, and they're very different from the rest of my family's truths, I love them more than I love being right. Like I love people more than I love being right. I don't care about being right. I never have. I've always cared about being understood and being heard so that we can connect deeper. But there's no such thing as being right, because things change. Everything always changes. And I feel, and the more we dig our heels into what we are clinging to in terms of opinion, the harder it's going to be when all the truth comes out, the harder it's going to be to have that confrontation with the ego. And we're like, yo, ego, you're really way off base here, and really harsh. It's going to be really hard to face all the times we've been harsh to people who are just trying to express their truth.
Yeah.
So it's not only about having empathy for others, but also empathy for our future selves. Because that moment, like I remember being super into sports, for example, and being a Red Sox fan and a Patriots fan, and the other team sucked, and then getting to the point where I didn't care about sports anymore, and then and looking back at myself and being like, whoa, my behavior when I was like, when the two opposing sides were Red Sox and Yankees, and I'd be like, fuck the Yankees. My behavior was really chaotic. It just contributed to the chaos, and that's something so silly, but it reminds me of the mask. Like a sports team alliance reminds me of the mask thing, because it's just something that it's just a symbol, as you said. It's a symbol of something that divides us.
Yeah.
And whereas, again, like using sports again as the metaphor, we can all agree that if we set the teams aside and team loyalty aside, we can all agree that we enjoy coming together for a shared purpose. So if we can admit that with mass, like we all enjoy, or we would all love to come together for a shared purpose of choosing what's best for our health.
Yeah.
Then maybe, so something that you brought up earlier was, what can we roll out in the blink of an eye, just as fast as they can roll out vaccines and technology? What can we roll out? And I think that something we can roll out is reprogramming our minds and our brains to focus on what we do agree upon instead of what we disagree over.
I had this word brainwashing roll in my head as you started talking about the way that you were when you were into sports a lot.
Yeah.
Because the thought was like, well, you weren't born that way. That is learned behavior. So where did you learn it from, right? Part of it is also, I would call it kind of brainwashing, because you see everyone else doing it, right? Because a lot of sport fanatics, they are that way. And that's why I dated one guy who was a lot into hockey, and it was for me. It was not for me. Let's just leave it there. And and I'm the person that I don't like to conform. I never have. It's all my greatest strength and my greatest weakness at the same time, right? Two things can coexist. One thing can be more than just one thing. And all of that, like the way that we are, the way that we believe certain things about the symbol of masks right now, might part of it be the brainwashing that each individual had chosen to go through without realizing it. Because social media, for the most part of it, is not controlled, but things do go on there that are not real. And it goes both ways. When it comes to the TV, all of that is controlled, to my understanding, to my knowledge.
You bring up such a, like, as you're talking about this, I'm picturing tribes, like the primal instinct to conform to the tribe, because we still do carry those ancient anxieties and fears. We still do carry that fight or flight reaction from the time we were cave people, and if we got kicked out of the tribe, then we would die, because how would we find food, how would we have shelter and fire if we didn't have our tribe? So as you're talking about this, I'm just seeing like, oh yeah, it is so scary to have an opinion that is different from the tribe. And that's what I'm seeing on social media is these tribes. And you get kicked, like there is, in reality, having an opinion that differs from the tribe isn't dangerous. Well, for most of us. I'm sure in some areas it is, and some parts of the world. But for most of us, if we've got computers, if we got clean water, if we got shelter, we are safe no matter what our opinions are. But it feels like it's life or death when we are bullied for our expression, and that's why it's so easy to conform and be brainwashed and allow that brainwashing and not question it. It takes a lot to challenge the status quo.
Yeah.
And that's, which is interestingly enough, in the law of being, one of the keys to happiness is challenge the status quo. It actually makes us happy.
Yeah.
And, is that really loud?
I hear a little, but it's not crazy loud. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. It's when Bruce was talking about basically don't listen to what has been spoken by many, because it is rumored to be true, right? Question it until you find your own truth. Like, and that's the thing, like a lot of this knowledge has been passed down generations after generations, and nobody's really questioning it until one day wake up and it's like, well, who decided that was the truth? Because I feel like I don't agree with it, and we start to question it. And I've always been questioning the status quo without realizing it, until having gone through my own life challenges, so to speak, I stopped questioning and just started showing up and just being here type of thing, because there was a lot other things that were taking the space in here. But anyway, so, and even questioning the status quo comes with its own challenges, right? So the masks right now, that is questioning the status quo. And when one of my friends had shared her opinion on a local mommy group, where this town is known to be, in Canada, first of all, nice and friendly and loving and sweet, and she herself is very, very nice, very timid, very laid back, very quiet, reserved lady. So when she mentioned something of hers, her thought, her opinion, she was attacked by so many local mommies, and I've gone through that. I know how that feels, and that right there is my definition of bullying. When you have one person and everyone comes to spit at this person, you're wrong, and telling her what's wrong with her at the same time. And that, how does that make a person feel? And I honestly, everyone that's watching, right? I want to see in the comments of how do you think that makes a person feel? What I think, from my experience, the loneliness is, it doesn't even summarize it. So much pain, so much hurt, and asking yourself constantly, what is wrong with me? Because when somebody asks you what's wrong with you, your brain is going to automatically start looking for what's wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. So the person is asking you that question. They're not asking you that question. They're asking themselves that question. But we can't help but respond.
And it's just so much easier. I also just want to offer to anyone, if you ever see that happening in a group, you can be the one to stick up for the person who's being bullied. Like, that is
Yes.
an angry mob.
Yes, it takes one person to make it okay for the other. Because when I was attacked in many, many different groups, and that's why it's hard for me to go into the groups now, one person would stand up for me, and that's all I needed.
It makes such a difference.
Yes, because otherwise, I was no longer alone. And I was understood, because that's all each and every human wants, to feel heard, to feel accepted, to feel understood. So if you are that person that stands up to the bullies by supporting a person that is being attacked, even if one person attacks, because what's going to happen if one person attacks this person, everybody else will see, oh, it's okay to do that. So let's all gang up.
Exactly. It's easy. It's so much easier to join the angry mob than it is to say, hang on, hang on, hang on. You have no idea what this person's going through. You have no idea the weight on their shoulders they're already carrying. You have no idea if this is going to be the one thing that pushes them over the line and causes them to slip into that state of loneliness and depression, that's it. That's it for them. Because we are all isolated right now, and we're all lonely, and we are all scared. So
Yeah. And I know I shared it with you, but I honestly, I feel like this would be a perfect time for me to share my personal experience of when I was bullied that affected me very deeply. And I know a lot of people, especially those that have body image issues, will understand. Most of us have body image issues. So for me, I was, and I still am part of this beautiful company that creates clean products for weight loss. So I was sharing my story in one of the groups, local groups, which is supposed to be, again, nice, lovely, sweet moms. That's not what I got. And I shared my pictures, and I was so proud of myself, of my success and everything. And one person told me that my pictures were fake, that I edited them, but that she wasn't done. She then wanted to prove in all the ways of how she was right. She took my image, circled all the areas of imperfections, pointed them out to me, posted them in that group for everyone else to see. And I've never felt so naked, so ashamed, so embarrassed of myself. And I do not edit. I cannot lie, ask my husband. I can't do any of that. So for someone to come to me and tell me in all the ways, all the, like, pointing out my imperfections, that made me feel, why even bother? Right? Like, just put extra large clothes on, cover up. What's the point of even trying to become a perfect image of myself that I see? And having gone through IPEC, having gone through coaching, I know that it's not about me, but it doesn't take away from the fact that this is a big addition to the voices that are already inside my head.
stays in the psyche. I mentioned to Chris recently that of the, like, I might get 20 comments of encouragement on something I put out there, but it's the one person who is bullying me that I will focus on, and my brain will like, I'll be about to post something, and then it's like my brain wipes out the 20 comments of encouragement and just focuses on the one person who had mean things to say, and then so we need to take responsibility. The fact that these are moms Um, Bullying scares me because
Kids,
A,
like you said before,
was that?
you said before, kids are always watching and they're learning.
Oh, it's that's why that phrase "do as I say, not as I do" is such BS. Because no, kids obviously are gonna do what you do.
Yeah.
Kids see how their parents behave, and that's what they consider normal. So then 90% of their hard drive by the time they're 7 or 8 is filled up by what they're seeing and what they're absorbing. Kids are sensitive. So if they're seeing, and I guarantee the moms who are being angry on the internet are saying the same things out loud to their husbands or whatever in front of their children, and it makes me scared because then those kids are going to think that that's normal and it's cool to bully someone. And I'm sure that's how bullies today, I'm sure that's how, like, the posts that I see of people bullying people who aren't wearing masks or not, posting about just information. Like, one of my friends was bullied for posting a doctor offering a different opinion about masks, just why they're not helpful. And again, I'm just offering this. I'm open to all the information before I make a decision one way or the other. I like to take in all the information from every side. Um, so I really appreciate the information that's out there that's offering a different opinion. And when I see that, so when this person was being bullied, and and I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. I'm getting distracted by the
That's okay. I was just hearing that it's a learned behavior. That's what I was hearing.
yeah.
That the way the children are acting or acting out, it is a learned behavior. Because when I hear of bullies and how they're bullying, the first question that comes to mind to me, how are they being treated at home, and how much of that is actually from home, with parents not actually realizing, and that's what they're doing.
It's dangerous.
I'm not saying that I'm a perfect parent. I've started paying attention once I recognize that that's how bullies are created. They're created from home by parents telling them what to do, and at the same time telling what's wrong with them or asking them what's wrong with you.
Using shame.
Yeah.
Whew, that just, like, wow.
So
Shame is such a tool
yeah,
that we use. Like, that's what bullying is. It's shaming. Like, we're shaming each other for having a difference of opinion. That's how dictatorships unfold. Like, that's how Nazi Europe was. That's how Hitler was successful, is creating a society where people were divided. Like, we were divided from each other. Like, just last night, I heard one neighbor say to another neighbor, "Do you want me to call the cops?" Like, there was like a neighbor, like, it was like 5 minute long, like, neighbor fight. And one neighbor said to the other, "Do you want me to call the cops?" And I felt my adrenaline spike because, like, we do not want cops called. Like, no, we never need to do that. But it hit me. I was like, wow, the powers that be succeeded. If we can't work shit out, if we're ready to call the authorities,
the parent.
yeah,
Yeah, my kids, mommy, Ethan hurt me. Come fix it. I'm not a policewoman.
we can't work shit out. Like, no. Like, and that's what my brothers and I knew. Like, as children, my brothers and I knew, yo, we work shit out. Like, we'll fight, but before you call mom or dad into the picture, we gotta work shit out. Like, whenever, like, we'd be fighting, a parent would, like, start coming over and be like, "Oh, we're just nothing to see here. We're all getting along." That's how neighbors gotta be. That's how humans gotta be. Like, no calling cops on your neighbors. That's gotta stop. Like, even my dad was telling me a story about a neighborhood in Connecticut. Like, Connecticut is, um, it says, like, I don't know, suburban as it gets. And in a Connecticut suburb, a neighbor had a fire in her backyard, and I guess it's not allowed in the town bylaws. And another neighbor called the cops. That blew, I was like, wow, she couldn't just go over there and say, I don't think this is allowed, and like have a conversation. You gotta get the cops involved, which is dangerous. Like, we do not know where cops heads are at. And so just hearing that, I was like, whoa, we're straight up in Nazi Europe. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
happened.
I'll give you an example at home with kids, okay? The kids are playing games. One says a word, a bad word. Another one quietly goes and tells mommy, Mommy, he said a bad word. What are you going to do about it? So that right there is that neighbor that called the cops without going to talk to their neighbors, to their friends. This behavior is learned at a very young age because the parents allow it to happen.
And actually,
That's what I was doing.
mm-hmm.
You gotta wait, sweetie.
Can I say something real quick?
Really quick.
Can Vivian come over into my room?
Sure, quietly. Bahiri, come here.
Baby?
Bahiri, no, don't touch the dog, please. Because she's gonna get very excited when people come over. Come on. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yeah, when people come over, she gets really excited, and that's why I don't want them touching her, because it just gets worse and worse and worse. Okay, Mila,
I'm trying to go
but this is why I told you, when I do my videos, you gotta... So, anyways, even like...
This topic, I just looked at the time and I should hop on the Coven call, but this topic,
Yes.
like what you just described, is a really important pattern. The child that goes and tells on the other child, what that's creating in the family structure, there's a pattern where that child, to win favor with the parents, that pattern creates a sycophant. Like, the sycophant is trying to win favor by sharing information. I watched myself play that role at work, telling my boss information because I wanted to win his favor. Like, back when I was still participating, perpetuating the status quo in the workplace.
Mhm.
So that it creates this system of, there's a sycophant, there's a scapegoat, and then there's the parent who favors the golden child, who's the one who has information on their siblings and shares it with the leader. And that creates a very dangerous narcissism cycle.
Yeah.
So we got to remember, like, we are one tribe. Before we go to the parent, the mommy and daddy, the father, like the patriarchy is like the father who we're never gonna win his approval. Like, that's how I see the patriarchy. We're never gonna win his approval. So we gotta work together. And we're never gonna, like, that's how the hierarchy maintains its structure, by keeping us telling on each other for approval.
Yeah.
Basically bullying each other. So we've got to come together. We have to start caring more about the hearts of others than we care about opinion. Like, right now, it seems like we live in a society where our opinion matters more than someone else's heart. And that's scary.
Yeah, it's separation as well. Even as you're kind of repeating that cycle of inside the house, what I was also hearing is separation between the siblings that are supposed to be a team. They're supposed to be a team against mommy and daddy. If we wouldn't be playing.
Exactly. It's supposed to be that's your first tribe. Like, a kid's first tribe is their siblings, and we got to act like it. And to break that, like, I know that my oldest brother broke it all the time, and that's how he became the golden child. And it still goes on. I hear the way he talks about us, and it's cool. It's fine. It's the pattern that our family fell into, and it's very common.
Yeah.
Where I could have seen an opportunity for my parents is to say, I don't want to hear you talk about your siblings that way. Go work it out with them.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah. And
Tell her
instead,
I don't want to hear, if I don't hear it myself, I do not want you coming and telling me I'm your brother. Because, and I tell her that you guys are supposed to be a team. You guys are supposed to be here getting each other's backs,
yes,
watching and protecting each other, because you guys growing up together, we are in a whole different spectrum, different age, different world. And at the end of the day, it's you and your brother, you and your sibling. And you coming and telling me does not make me happy. And it does not make your brother happy. Does it make you happy? No. So then why do it?
I think as kids, we think we'll win favor.
Yeah.
We think we'll win approval. That's how I felt in the workplace. I was brainwashed into the pattern in the workplace of
it was rewarded.
If I keep feeding my boss this information, he keeps favoring me and trusting me, and the trust felt great, and like he would confide in me, so I would keep feeding him information until that was when I was at level 4. And because while I was at level 4, I concerned for others, my concern, because my level 4 energy was deeply tied to my money story. So since he was the one paying me and choosing how big of bonuses to give me, I could convince myself that all my level 4 energy could go into his agenda. And then when I expanded to level 5, the rose-colored glasses came off and I could see what I was doing. And I could see that I was giving him information about my own tribe, about my own cohort, and that my cohort of millennials, we needed to stick together because we were coming into the workforce at a very different time than when he and his cohort came into the workforce. And it felt, I had to go through that ego confrontation of what have I been doing? How could I have contributed to this pattern? And I think that a lot of people are going to be going through that as well as we expand consciousness and face the patterns we perpetuated in the past. So also there's a lot of forgiveness there. There's plenty of grace and compassion for recognizing when we've been perpetuating these patterns.
Yeah.
And it's safe, like it's okay. It's okay to face it and like, oh shit, maybe like if anyone's listening and feeling like, oh shit, I've done that. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. We all do it, and
it just means you're human, right? And you're human, and the biggest point of all that is that you learn from it. Not continue to do the same thing. Yeah, it might take you some time to get over and learn a different way, a different approach. It might take you some time to respond as opposed to react, but the goal is to continue to try. Trying is all we can do in the beginning, and what's going to happen after, it will just become natural. It will be so natural that we will even look back and be like, how did I even do that? Like, it'll be really difficult to even kind of replay of how we did certain things back in the day, who we were back.
Actually, I like that you bring that up because that's kind of like a way of rewriting the past. Like, we can't change the past. We can't change who we were.
Yeah, we can own it.
But we can own it. And that's where there's healthy shame and healthy guilt. The healthy guilt I felt for the roles I've played in the past have indicated to me where I can show up differently in the now. Because all we've got is the now, and we could always choose to show up differently in the now. And the more we choose up from a conscious place and from the soul and from an authentic place in the now, the more the guilt and shame and attachment to who we were in the past mitigates, and it's almost like we can detach. Like when I speak about the roles I played in the past that I'm not proud of, I feel like I'm speaking about a different person, so there's no longer guilt or shame. Whereas if I spoke of this a year ago or 2 years ago, there might be more attachment, and I might not even be able to admit who I was, who the role I played in the past.
But it sounds like you've worked through it, you've learned, and you accepted it, and you owned it. That
Right.
yes,
Because
what-
I became crystal clear on who I want to show up as in the now,
yeah,
and
Yeah.
have repeated to do that every day, and so that's helped with what I wasn't proud of in the past.
Yeah. But if you didn't go through that, you wouldn't have had that experience and wouldn't have known firsthand. So hence, you'd be a different person.
Mm-hmm. I needed that grief and shame. I needed to look at myself and be like, what have you done? Like, how could you? And then be like, all right, well, I can't change that, but I can show up differently now and hold myself accountable for that.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. So I know I don't want to hold you back. I always feel bad holding you back.
Yeah.
But it,
I'm a big girl.
yeah, I know. But I still feel responsible, right? And that's something I'm still working through.
I think we both we're aware of time, but we also both have the level 6 energy when we get into this flow where time stops existing. So we do have a little bit of leeway for when we do lose track of time because it no longer exists, which we can explain on another call when time doesn't exist.
Honestly, I wonder what everybody else thinks that watches these videos, and how curious people would be to hear more of the higher levels, like level 5, 6, and 7, because most people don't really understand, even though they've experienced it, but they don't understand of what that all means and how that looks and how that feels. So maybe this is something that we can also do.
Awesome. I've thought about that a lot because when I do the debriefs, when I debrief people after they receive their ELI results, their assessment results, we spend a lot of time on level 1, a lot of time on level 2, a lot of time on level 4. And beyond level 4, I find that people struggle when we do the debrief, we offer a space for self-assessment. So you can evaluate where the levels show up in your life. And people have so many, like we spend a lot of time on level 1 because so much comes up. Yeah. And also level 4. And when we get to 5 through 7, it takes like 5 minutes to go through those because
they don't, not they, but even myself, not being aware of it. I had a really difficult time understanding what that even meant and what that would look like. But once I became aware of how those levels were already showing up in my life, then I was able to just shift focus on all the levels that are showing up in my life that I want. And then when the other ones come, because you can't ignore them, right? They're still there. Then experience them consciously, and then remind myself of the other levels that I would much more rather prefer. But if I prefer level 1 or level 3, usually not level 2, but level 1 or level 3, then I'll do that. I'll stay there until I feel like I'm ready to go up to the higher levels. But level 1,
I will bask in my level 1 glory and be like, I want all the sympathy and people, because sometimes that's what we need to recharge.
Yeah, it has advantages.
Yeah, absolutely. We contract so that we can expand again. I also find when I contract into level 1, it makes me, I remember what it feels like, and I remember how scary it is to have those thoughts.
Yeah.
And that makes me a better ally and friend to anybody who's there, because I can be like, yeah, I know it sucks.
Because we have that first-hand experience. And as we were talking about level 1, the opposite is level 7. Level 7 has its disadvantages as well. So I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Okay, we'll talk about this is for another session. But we could go deep.
Oh, I know. So anyways, you go and have fun with your circle of beautiful ladies. Tell everyone I said hi. I'm going to do some studying. And some planning. I'm going to be doing a 90-day business plan. So it's going to be fun.
Oh, all right. Well, keep me updated how that goes.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm excited. I'm
Yeah.
excited to get started, and then I'm excited to uncover, see what comes up and how it's going to go in the flow, because it's like right now it's like seeing all these things, all these parts of the moving gears of the grandfather clock, so to speak, and then putting it all together and making it work.
Lots of moving parts.
All
All right. You got this. You got this. You've been training your whole life for this. This is exactly, you've been doing this for years, so you got this.
Yeah.
It's all coming together.
Yeah, it's fun. Fun. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll tell the girls you say hi.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for another awesome. Oh, Emmy just said, I know you're probably wrapping it up with Yana.
She knows. See?
Yeah. Okay. All right. I should hop over there.
Okay. They're clearly demanding your presence. Awesome. Okay, I'll see you next week then.
Okay.
Goodbye and bye, everybody.
Love. Peace.
Peace. Bye.